It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
We're the Insiders. So, Scott, Happy New Year to everybody, first of all. And tell me, Scott, what do you think are going to be the top political stories for the new year?
Well, I think there's two stories that will dominate Wisconsin politics in 2026. The first one is I'm convinced that this state is going to stick with its apparent devotion to divided government. Neither party is going to sweep power and take both the executive branch and the legislative branch. We just don't do that a whole lot here in Wisconsin. And I don't think we're going to do that in this election, even though it might be nationally a very good year for Democrats. I think that is very unlikely here. The Democrats in Wisconsin seem to want to race to the left in their race for governor. I think that's going to hurt them in the general election, whoever they end up putting out there as the nominee, and it will be helpful to Republicans. And the mechanics in the legislature are very, very close in both houses. And I think it's just unlikely that the voters who distrust both parties are going to give one of them the keys to the kingdom. I just don't think that's likely. The other thing is I think the immigration issue is going to continue to dominate headlines in the state. I think it will tear people apart. I think there'll be some more horrible things seen at the national level about people who are here illegally who then commit horrible crimes. And that will reinforce the president's desire to deport people and to continue to crack down on illegal immigration. Yet there'll be state courts and lower courts that will be pushing back, trying to protect people's rights. I just think this thing is going to continue to burn and dominate the headlines over the course of this year.
Well, let me add one other item that I think will be an important story politically in Wisconsin, and that is congressional redistricting. Whatever happens, it's a huge story. But I think that I would say, I don't think this is a slam dunk, but I do believe that Wisconsin's Supreme Court will provide for different districts, and unless struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, that will result in a congressional delegation for Wisconsin, which is now 6-2 and does not reflect the basically even purple makeup of the state between Dems and Republicans. And we will have 4 congressmen who are Democrats and 4 congressmen or women who are Republicans. And that's the way it should be, in fairness. Going back, I do not believe immigration will play as large a role, although the president will try to do that, as will Republicans, because they know it's a hot button issue to hurt Dems. I do believe that the governor's race will be a huge issue and a huge story this year. And I think that what's going to happen there, boy, Tom Tiffany sure looks like the odds-on person to win for the Republicans. I don't see how Tom Tiffany can win that race when the votes that he needs in order to win are going to come out of the suburbs around Milwaukee. And, you can talk about the Fox River Valley, northern Wisconsin will turn out for him, but boy, I think it's going to be a tough one for him. So I really think Democrats have a strong advantage there. But Scott and I think our fundamental disagreement is in the legislature, particularly in the assembly. I'm confident that with the national situation, assuming that it remains similar to what it is now, which Scott acknowledged, Democrats are going to do very well. And I think any political strategist will tell you that as you go down the ballot, that national attitude has a much greater impact. People pay attention to governor, they pay attention to U.S. Senate, but by the time you get down to the state assembly, a lot of it is voting on what do they think overall about Dems and Republicans. I think that's what's going to tip this over. Republicans will lose the assembly and the Senate, and there will be a trifecta, and there will be some major changes that will happen with regard to the state of Wisconsin from having had almost 20 years of Republican-dominated rule. So I think that's going to be a big story. And I think the one that's the biggest question in there is, does the state of Wisconsin change the assembly majority from Republican to Democrat? I think yes. Scott thinks no, and we'll see.
We will.
See you next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.